Put your hand against a wall. Spread your fingers. Now imagine that the outline you leave survives longer than every city, every kingdom, and almost every story humanity has ever told. In a limestone cave on a small Indonesian island, someone did exactly that. The mark is faint. Part of it has almost vanished. Yet scientists now say it is at least 67,800 years old. It may be the oldest reliably dated rock art known anywhere on Earth, but the most haunting question is not how old it is. It is this: who placed their hand there, and why? The cave is called Liang Metanduno. It lies on Muna, an island off southeastern Sulawesi. Today, tropical plants crowd the limestone hills and daylight spills through the cave entrance. The wall is covered with paintings from different periods. Some are much younger and easier to see. Hidden among them is the older image. Not a painted hand, but an empty hand-shaped space surrounded by faded pigment. This person did not dip a palm into paint and press it down. They placed a real hand flat against the rock. Then they blew wet red pigment around the fingers, probably through the mouth or a small tube. When the hand lifted away, its shadow remained. The body moved on. The outline stayed. Look closely, and the fingertips seem strangely narrow and pointed. Similar stencils elsewhere in Sulawesi show fingers deliberately reshaped in the image. The artist may have bent or covered parts of the fingers before spraying the pigment. Perhaps the pointed shape carried a meaning. Perhaps it marked a group, a story, a spirit, or a person. Archaeology can show us the action. It cannot yet recover the message. To understand how astonishing this is, travel back 67,800 years. Much of the world is colder than today. Sea levels are lower, but Sulawesi is still separated from the Asian mainland by deep water. Anyone reaching Muna belongs to a population that crossed islands. They watched currents, read clouds, carried children, protected tools, and trusted some kind of watercraft across channels where the next shore could disappear behind rain. Imagine one of those traveling families. They land on a bright tropical coast after a dangerous crossing. Spears and baskets come ashore first. Children step from a rough boat into warm shallows. Behind them is one island. Ahead are unfamiliar forests, limestone ridges, streams, pigs, birds, and dark openings in the rock. Their survival depends on learning the new landscape quickly. Life here is not spent posing beside cave walls. People gather shellfish along the coast, hunt in forest clearings, cut plants, repair bindings, keep fire alive, carry water, and teach children where danger hides. The cave is one place inside a much larger world. It offers shade, dry ground, echoing chambers, and walls that can hold a memory. Making the stencil requires preparation. Someone finds red mineral pigment, crushes it on stone, and mixes the powder with liquid. Another person tends a small lamp or torch. A child may watch. An elder may correct the mixture. The artist chooses a patch of pale rock, presses one hand against its cool surface, takes a breath, and sprays. For a few seconds, the person and the wall are connected. Pigment settles around the thumb, palm, and pointed fingertips. The hand lifts. Firelight trembles across a new outline. We do not know whether the group celebrates, falls silent, laughs, sings, or simply returns to work. Any of those details would be imagination. What we know is more powerful. Someone wanted a human hand shape to remain. Then, time attacks it. Smoke passes through the cave, water moves across stone, mineral films grow, other artists add images nearby. Generations travel through the region, and the original name of the maker disappears. The red outline fades until it can be missed even by someone standing close enough to touch it. That fading almost hid the record. Researchers surveying caves across southeastern Sulawesi documented dozens of rock art sites, including places previously unknown to science. At Liang Metanduno, the old stencil did not announce itself with bright color. It survived beneath tiny mineral deposits that had slowly formed on top of the pigment. those mineral crusts became a clock. In the laboratory, researchers used a laser to sample microscopic calcite without removing the whole image. They measured uranium and the thorium produced as uranium decayed. The calcite covering the stencil yielded an age that placed the art beneath it at a minimum of 800 years old. The hand could be older. It cannot be younger than the mineral layer that grew over it. That minimum age pushes the stencil beyond the previous record by about 100 years. The earlier record was a hand stencil in Spain attributed to Neanderthals. Now, the oldest reliably dated example may come from a tropical island thousands of kilometers away. Creativity was not waiting for cities, farms, monuments, or even Europe. It was already traveling with mobile people across the islands of Southeast Asia. The location may matter as much as the date. Far beyond Sulawesi lay Sahul, the Ice Age landmass that joined Australia and New Guinea. Humans reached that world tens of thousands of years ago, but their route remains debated. The Muna stencil provides direct evidence that modern humans were moving through this northern island corridor by at least 800 years ago. The people who made the art may have belonged to a wider population connected to the ancestors of indigenous Australians. Picture the journey continuing. Families leave one island at dawn. Watercraft ride dark blue channels. Pigment stones, cutting tools, food, and fire-making materials travel with them. On each shore, they learn new winds, new animals, and new sources of fresh water. Their technology keeps bodies alive. Their shared symbols may help keep the group itself together. Why make a hand stencil during a migration that demanded so much practical work? Because survival and imagination were never opposites. A person can repair a spear and tell a story. A parent can gather food and make a mark. A group can fear the sea and still carry pigment across it. Art is not something humans began only after life became easy. The hand on the wall suggests that meaning traveled beside hunger, danger, and work.
We should still be careful. No skeleton lies beneath the stencil with the artist's identity attached. We do not know their age, sex, language, name, or exact purpose. We cannot prove the pointed fingers were a clan sign, ritual gesture, or playful experiment. The honest mystery is part of the discovery. Science has dated the mark. It has not translated it. But the hand itself gives us one extraordinary connection. The maker had joints beneath skin, pigment on their lips, breath in their lungs, and people somewhere nearby. They chose a wall. They spread their fingers. They left a shape that another human could recognize without words. 800 years later, laser light passes across the mineral crust. A researcher sees the outline clearly again. Across an almost impossible distance of time, one hand meets another. Not through a crown, a weapon, or a grave, but through the simplest message a human body can leave. I was here.